Now, welcome back, everybody. And we did have somebody else join us now late evening. Thank you so much for coming along to this session on publishing in AePR, the magazine of the association. And I would like to hand over the microphone to Candice, who is going to lead the session so that you can find out how you can actually get your work published that you've been talking about here today or that you might be thinking about sharing at some other point with the community. Over to you, Candice.
Great. Let me share my screen. And I will talk a little bit more about other places you might be able to publish too, but I know the most about AAPR because I work on the editorial board. It's still loading. There we go. Okay. Um, so first of all, to think about about publishing, is there are multiple places to publish. And I'm going to spend most of my time talking about publishing in the AEPR, which is the Able ePortfolio Review. But and you know, I would say, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, that it is really a practitioner's journal. It's a place where if you've got a practice and you want to share a practice, um, it's a great place to do that. The International Journal of ePortfolio really encourages empirical studies. And so that's going to be a better place to do this. But there are really a lot of different options. And I'm going to talk about the Pearl, which is a great, I'm sorry I don't have a QR code here for people, but if you want to write down the link there or get it later when we have all of the stuff gathered for you after the conference, you can look at this. But it gives you an idea not just about what's been published and looking around, but also a place about where people have published about ePortfolios. So I think it's a really useful resource. So there are lots of opportunities, I guess I want to get the word out for you to publish about your work. Um, ranging from really your own personal view, a point of view kind of article, all the way to, a systematic empirical study. So just remember that you've got a voice and people want to hear it. We have a really well-functioning team. We've been working together since 2016, and we've really had not many people rotate off. We are always eager to, and I'll tell you that later. I'm going to just run ahead all the time, but we would love to have other people join us. So if you would like to participate, I'll give you some ideas about how you can in a little bit. But we have a very rich team. So our vision is that, this is an online journal that serves the needs of the global ePortfolio community, and really wants to promote portfolio learning as a major way to transform higher education. Again, it's pretty practice oriented. We will, of course, accept probably empirical studies, but really the stories are the really important things that we end up sharing in the AEPR. It is a peer-reviewed journal. We've sort of figured out that it can count as that. It's a little bit different than sort of a blind peer review, but it is peer-reviewed. So if you need that for your own promotion kinds of activities, it certainly should count. Um, and the audiences, as I said, it really is it's for ePortfolio practitioners. But we have lots of different kinds of articles over the year. Probably the most unique thing about the APR is that we use a collaborative author editor approach, and editors can really help a person who submits an article help them shape that article. It is an excellent place for students that might want to publish because they will be working with a really skilled editor who will be able to give them some feedback, and they can publish a really fine piece of work. But we do it with everybody, from all ranges of experience, and the editors are really good at helping the authors kind of make their article a little bit better after they submit it. We publish twice a year. In the spring, we have spring summer issue and a fall winter issue. Our fall or yeah, yeah. I think our fall winter it first of all, our issues are based on a theme and are selected by our editorial team. And the fall winter one that's going to be coming up uh, is based upon the theme of ABLE's yearly meeting. So anything you have presented today, and if you're going to be around and you're going to present tomorrow, are all fair game to being published in AEPR. And we would love those submissions because that will be the theme of our next edition. So be thinking about that. Um, and the other thing I really like about AEPR is that it is a beautiful journal. We actually have a very talented graphic designer who formats AEPR. She is not in academia. She volunteered. We found her on LinkedIn, and it was a way to sort of build her portfolio, but she loves us. So she continues to do a little work with
Wow.
us, to do the work with us to publish really great covers and to make the pages in the PDF really beautiful and easy to read because of that. So these are just a few covers to give you an idea about how pretty it looks. And so the way that you can learn about AEPR is you can go to the ABLE website. And there is there's resources there's a tab for resources. And one of the resources is the ABLE ePortfolio review. You'll see all of our editions. And you'll also see off to the right the call for papers and with a submission link. So I encourage you to kind of look at that and get in there. Please, I'd love to hear from you. Um, I've talked about this, but just let me tell you a little bit about the process we use. Authors submit an idea. The other great thing is that you do not need to submit a full article. Initially, you submit an idea, and then we accept your idea, or we give you some feedback about your idea. And then once that idea is sort of like we say, that's a good idea, that makes sense in this edition, along with the other submissions, you know, will pair you with an editor, and then you will begin to work on your first draft. Um, and then the editor will continue to work with you, and then we'll have a final draft. We have a styles editor, so they'll be thinking about, how do we present this in the format that we use for AAPR to make it beautiful. So there'll be someone who's checking with you. There are often pull-out quotes, so the styles editor is working with you to figure that out, what you would like to have as a pull-out. And we also have an APA editor. That does not mean that you should be super lazy about the APA, but Kara's really good about helping make sure that we are following the guidelines of APA. But again, please try. Please try. That's what I always tell my students. Please try. It's good practice and being precise. And then we end up having a full team proof. So everyone on the APR board reads each of the articles, gives some feedback. We also submit the addition to the board, and the board is able to look at the edition and also give some feedback. There's a lot of feedback, isn't there? There's a lot of feedback. And then we also have a second full team review. We are really, we really don't want to have errors at all. But we do. So, but all of this review, I think, helps us not have as many. So that's the process. So again, there's this proposal phase that I talked about. Then there's a period where you're able to work on your article and probably work on it with your editor that's been assigned to you. And then there's a production phase. And a lot, as I said, there's a lot of review to make sure that it's good. Uh, and you can see we're just showing you we do a lot of work. There's a schedule. We try to stay on the schedule. Um, it's been really great for me to participate and sort of see the process of creating something like this. It's a big deal. Takes a lot of time. So since 2016, we actually I think AAPR kind of started as a newsletter, and then it kind of morphed into another kind of journal, this practitioner journal. So now we have a newsletter and a journal, which is really cool. We have had 18 editions. When we first started, we actually had 4 editions a year. I don't know what we were thinking. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but we did it and we got submissions. It was great. So we have had 18 editions. And usually in our editions, we have about 3 to 9 submissions in each issue. Um, and we really try not to have rejections. When you submit, again, we sort of see this as a developmental process, especially for new authors to get sort of their feet wet. So we try to work with people, but sometimes the topic is just not on point with the particular edition. And we offer people to say maybe it will be appropriate in the next edition if we have space for it. People don't sometimes take us up on that. So it is not a place that you need to feel super intimidated that you may not get any kind of response. You will get a lot of support from people. And I just wanted to share with you some information about the other major place that you can publish your work about ePortfolios. I can only give you sort of broad strokes because I'm not part of that. Well, I'm a review editor, but or a reviewer. I don't know what you call it. A review. I'm a reviewer. Um, but the mission is really to encourage of the International Journal of ePortfolios to encourage the study of practices and pedagogy associated with ePortfolios in an educational setting. So again, I think that word study is really important. They encourage empirical articles. So if you've got a little project, we had a presentation earlier that had lots of data from Indiana University, and so I actually hope he'll submit to International Journal of ePortfolio because I think it would be a great piece. And here are the folks that are associated with. I think this is correct information, maybe dated. I'm not sure. But some really good folks that pay attention. Um, so, okay. Uh, and they have a blind peer review. And they also typically publish twice yearly, once in April and once in October. And that it's open access, so anybody can get to it, just like AePR. They have print copies that are available for a fee, but it's only for past issues. So, but you can get a print copy, which is kind of cool. And it's actually a very popular journal. It's approaching 1 million article downloads. So people do want to know about ePortfolios, right? I don't think we've ever calculated our downloads, but I got this from Jessica. So And you can see that the acceptance rate is a little lower. So, you might expect if you're submitting to this journal that you might get, revise, you might get a revise and resubmit kind of decision. So just just thinking about that. And the call for manuscripts is on a rolling basis. So you can submit anything you might want to do. They will have special editions that they will ask for, but really it's the kind of journal where you submit an article, they see if it fits, and if it makes sense and it's well written, et cetera, it studies sound, and they make that decision. And you'll be able to, like, if you're interested in becoming a reviewer or want to be put on the mailing list for when an issue is published, you can email them and they will give that to you. And with that, we really have time to talk about, any questions you might have, but also if you have some ideas, we can kind of pitch some ideas. This might be a little mini Shark Tank, Helen, about ideas for publication.
Thank you so much, Candice, for showing us where there are possibilities, especially also open access, which Jerry, I think, is happy to hear, following on the open educational resources theme that we had earlier,
Mhm.
to share more of your own portfolio practice, be that in quantitative, qualitative ways, or show and tells, depending on where you want to publish then. Do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Jerry. I hope we're describing a humane process to publishing. We've had authors tell us that they've really enjoyed the process.
Yeah, I would too.
They learn about publication, they learn
Yeah.
about it so they're able to do it in other places later.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was a really good experience publishing. Thank
Oh, good.
you.
I'm glad to hear
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And also one of the comments was that it's very pretty on the inside. So Candice had talked about I've shown a couple of the covers, and yes, everyone is always so prettily designed. It's a joy just to
It
look at
is
it.
to look at it. Yes, and Susan, she started using AI, but then modifying some of it. And so I think they've gotten really interesting. The covers have gotten really interesting. So the theme will be of the annual meeting, which is what are you doing and what works? So I think all the presentations we've heard today, and I'm sure that were shared in Indiana, are really um, would be great. And we'll probably send you an email and encourage you to submit something.
And Candice, if somebody did not have the opportunity to present at the event for whatever reason, they can still submit an article as well to the theme, right?
Of course, yes.
Oh, and Candice, could you describe, and from your vantage point, how would you describe the differences between IJEP versus AEPR?
Um, I think IJEP is definitely more, it's really about empirical research.
Okay.
And so AAPR, people may have done some research, but it's light, it's like
Mhm.
more of an assessment of a project than it is research.
Mhm.
And so I think that's the main difference. But it's a great place to sort of do a storytelling, right?
Mhm.
About what your experience is of
Mhm.
building something new.
Mhm. Mhm. I have to say, I've had such a positive experience working with the editorial team and the layout team and everything. I put in the chat, I highly recommend it for anyone who's new to publishing. It is maybe more, I don't know if you think it's appropriate to describe it as more of a magazine style and everything, which actually gives a lot more flexibility in terms of sharing personal experiences or student testimonials and so on that don't fall necessarily into a traditional research all. And actually, I think it's being published a lot more more frequently than it seems than IG. which we'll need to follow up on. Debbie and I'll stop observing that. So again, but I think one of the big pluses is the collaborative editorial process. You really get to get feedback, get coached and everything, for any writing that you might want to do.
I think for people who are who've been very much in a discipline and not thinking about pedagogy or publishing about scholarship of teaching and learning, someplace like AAEPR is this really nice step.
It's an on-ramp. Yeah, an
Yeah,
on.
to help with that. And I do think, we don't have to recreate the wheel every time. Like something that's storytelling at one level, then over the next year or two, you're collecting the data and you can sort of hop from different SOTL journals to share that work. And as it builds over time, it's amazing. I love like every assessment institute seeing what the Flint, Michigan team has done, or watching Bucknell year after year present about this huge grant and how it's changed the way they're engaging with their engineering students. So there's room to keep sharing. It's not a one and
Yes.
done, and I love that.
Yeah.
Candice,
Then
are you
what?
familiar with ELFI?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you familiar with ELFI?
Mm-mm. Tell us what it is.
So ELFI, I can't tell you what it stands for, but Amy Ticino is the new editor, and she's been working with
Right.
it for a while. It's about experiential. The word
Great.
experiential is in there somewhere or twice. Um, and they're very much, obviously, because of Amy, open to ePortfolios.
Great. That's great. That might be something we might want to provide on the web page at some point, right? Is opportunities for where you might publish.
Oh, I love that idea.
That might be a really good resource on the web page.
Try to track.
Like I said, I've like fished through Pearl and found journals that I did not know would publish about ePortfolios, and that's been super helpful.
Well, and I think,
We could put that together.
yeah, and I think like 4Cs used to be a place where you could, but it's so competitive now. It's harder to get something in there, but um,
Yeah, usually the task force, so Megan Weiss, Morgan Grisham, Sarah Sue Helen, and so on, they typically go to 4Cs and
Mhm.
have presentations there. Mm.
Mhm. And a few of us have also presented at POD, the
Mm.
professional, for educational developers, mostly in the United States, but it's another organization.
Mm. Once again, thank you so much, Candice, for letting everybody know how they can publish their work in open access journals by mentioning a few.